Okay, we have copied our foundation shape onto a new file. We'll work with it here. The first thing I want to do is make sure that we have a stroke around this. So Control Shift F to bring up our fill and stroke panel. I'm going to set that to 1/100 of an inch and solid line. And let's give it a black outline. All right, so we've prepared it with our stroke. Let's make sure that all of the segments are straight segments so that the program can put tabs on appropriately. You'll need to do this for each object. So with your node tool, F2, select all, Control A, and then click on this icon up here. Make selected segments lines. You can go back to your select tool at that point. And now this piece is prepared for the extruder. Come up to Extensions, to Papercraft, Extruder. Let's take a look at our settings. We want our extrusion to be a 1/2 inch. I want the maximum length of the extrusion. This has to do with the side pieces that it creates to give you depth, and I don't want any of them to be longer than 11.4 inches because I want to be able to cut them on my cutting machine. Tab angle 45, height of tab 0.3, and length of dash line 0.1. Those are all fine. The only time you'd want to change these is if you have a particular shape that it's just not working with, and you can play with those. Dash lines on wrappers just means that it will make it a little easier to see where to put our wrappers when we actually make the object. If you're doing something fancy with the extruder, you may prefer not to have the dash lines showing up. These are for the cut dash lines. If you are using a scoring tool, then you'll want to set the length of this dash line here to 0, and then it will make solid lines separate from the outline of the object so that you can use that for scoring. I'm going to use cut score lines, so the 1/10 inch cut is fine. All I need to do now is apply. Close this window. And the first thing I'm going to do is save this file. I'm saving it as foundation.svg. These are all of our pieces at this point that we're going to need right off the bat. I'm going to show you a couple of changes that I think will make things easier. So I'm going to back out here a little bit. These are the pieces that go along the side to give your extrusion its depth. These are the wrapper pieces, the decorative paper. If you wanted a flowery foundation, you could cut these on flowery paper and paste them over the edges. This 1 and 2 here, I'm going to come over to my Objects menu. You can get there by clicking on Objects. You can see here on the layer dock, these two numbers here are in a separate layer. I'm going to get rid of that layer before we actually cut. You can leave it if you want, but it's kind of in the way. It just shows you where you're going to start putting your strips along the edge and which direction you're going to move. How do you know which order these go in? Come over here. They have a little suffix on. For instance, this is 0ms1. We only have one piece that we extruded, so it's piece 0. We're going to look at the main pieces, which is the M, and side 0 or piece 0 here. So it's 0, 1, 2, and 3. So these are the side pieces, and they'll go along the outside. So basically 0 is going to be the first one, then 1 will be the second one. So if you're just going to glue these, they're going to go end to end like this. And then they're going to wrap around, starting at position 1 and wrapping around to 2 and just following it around. So that's basically That's basically how this is going to work. A couple of other things that I want to show you. Let's get rid of this layer dock right now. We don't need it. I know where the pieces go. Excuse me. It created a copy of the shape. We're actually going to do another copy of this shape because when I glue this together, this is pretty thin and it's a little bit hard to sometimes put this top piece on. This is the bottom and this is the top or the lid. I would like to have a hollow piece here that I can stick my fingers in and get these pieces glued down and then just glue this on top of it. That's easy to do. Just duplicate this with a Control D, then duplicate it again. I'm going to change the color on that so I can see it more easily. Then with that, we're going to do an inset with a Control Open Parent or Control 9. And then with both of these selected, we'll do a path difference, a Control Shift minus. That gives us our what I would call a gluing ring. It just makes it easier. If you don't want to spend the paper on it, it's up to you. If you don't want to use your top in addition, that's up to you. As we do the other floors, you may want a hollow floor so that if you're using it as a light box, the light will shine up through all the floors. But for the purpose of our foundation, I'll probably, just for strength, go ahead and use the ring and the lid. So that's all there is to doing the extrude. I'm going to save this. It can go to our cutting file in Design Space or Silhouette Studio at this point.